There is a specific, jagged kind of humiliation reserved for the moment you realize you are not the exception to a cynical rule, but merely a mark on a grifter's clipboard. Modern dating is already a battlefield of ghosting, breadcrumbing, and carefully curated lies, but every so often a predator enters the arena wielding charm like a scalpel. They profile you. They look at your stable career, your comfortable apartment, perhaps the few extra curves you carry, and they calculate your desperation. They assume that because you are a fiercely independent woman in your 30s, secretly craving warmth, you must be starved enough to pay for it. But when a parasite misjudges the host, the immune response isn't just rejection. It's total scorched-earth eradication. This is the anatomy of a fatal miscalculation. The air in the upscale mezcal bar was thick with the scent of charred orange peel and expensive cologne the night I met Terso. After a decade-long hiatus from the dating trenches, I had waded back in, armed with a healthy skepticism and a wardrobe that accentuated my best features. I've always been the kind of woman who commands a room, a striking face, sharp wit, and a body that unapologetically takes up space. I'm carrying a little extra weight, sure, but my dance card has never lacked for signatures. I didn't need a man to validate my existence, nor did I need to buy affection. But Terso was a masterclass in manufactured serendipity. Only a few years my junior, he hailed from a sun-drenched coastal city in Latin America. He had this disarming, liquid gaze and a laugh that felt entirely unpracticed. Over the course of 3 weeks and 4 spectacular dates, he built a meticulously tailored illusion. He was physically affectionate, intellectually engaging, and spoke with reverence about his tight-knit family back home. He claimed to have a lucrative profession waiting for him across the border, though he admitted with a charming, self-deprecating shrug that he was currently in my city on a tourist visa, hoping to find a legal avenue to stay. I drew the boundary immediately, tracing the rim of my glass with a manicured nail as I looked him dead in the eye. I told him I wasn't a sponsor, a savior, or a stepping stone. We could enjoy a fiery summer fling, I said, but a real relationship was entirely contingent on him securing his own footing. He nodded, kissing the back of my hand with a reverence that, in hindsight, was utterly theatrical. The illusion fractured on a mundane Tuesday afternoon. The sky outside my office window was the color of wet slate, mirroring the sterile hum of the fluorescent lights above my desk. We were texting back and forth, the usual flirtatious banter peppered with details about my corporate grind. I mentioned a recent promotion, the slight bump in my disposable income, and the relief of financial stability. His response popped onto my screen, the blue bubble containing a string of words that made the coffee in my stomach turn to battery acid. He asked me to be his sugar mommy. At first, a genuine laugh bubbled up my throat. I typed back a string of crying laughing emojis, assuming it was a clumsy attempt at irony. But the 3 typing dots appeared, hovered, and vanished. Then came the follow-up. He wasn't joking. He outlined a monthly allowance, suggesting that my financial backing would allow him to focus on us rather than stressing over his visa status. The sheer audacity of it sucked the oxygen from the room. A cold, metallic fury settled behind my ribs. He hadn't seen me as a woman, a partner, or even a casual lover. He had looked at me and seen a walking ATM, calculating that my physical insecurities, which existed entirely in his own prejudiced imagination, made me vulnerable to his transactional affection. I didn't hold back. My thumbs flew across the glass screen, delivering a blistering critique of his non-existent pride. I demanded to know how a grown man could be so thoroughly devoid of shame, begging a woman he barely knew to underwrite his life. I hit every nerve I could find, aiming for the fragile ego I knew lurked beneath his bravado. The charm evaporated instantly. Terso lashed out, abandoning the sweet, cuddly persona for venomous insults. He mocked me for thinking he would ever be genuinely interested in a woman who looked like me, claiming he was doing me a favor by even offering his time. He didn't apologize. He didn't backtrack. He simply twisted the knife, confident in his cruelty. I blocked his number. Then I walked into the ladies' room, locked myself in a stall, and let the hot, stinging tears spill over. It wasn't heartbreak. It was the agonizing sting of wounded pride, the realization that I had been manipulated so easily. I took screenshots of the entire exchange, the digital receipts of my humiliation, and sent them to my 2 closest friends. I needed comfort. What I got instead was a war council. Vesper operates with the kind of digital ruthlessness that belongs in a subterranean hacker bunker. While I was still dabbing my mascara, she was already conducting a forensic audit of Terso's digital footprint. An hour later, I was sitting on Vesper's velvet sofa, watching her fingers fly across her laptop keyboard. The sheer volume of his deceit was staggering. Vesper had unearthed 6 different Instagram accounts, all utilizing slight permutations of his name. They were populated with alternating batches of photos, carefully curated to appeal to different demographics of women. His Facebook presence mirrored the grift. It was a factory line of romance scams. But Turso had made a fatal, sloppy error. On one obscure, heavily filtered profile, he had uploaded a photo of himself in a uniform, tagging the local construction firm where he was working under the table. It was a direct violation of his tourist visa. The puzzle pieces clicked together with a satisfying, lethal finality. I picked up my phone and dialed Brisa. Brisa and I had gone to college together, but while I climbed the corporate ladder, she had embedded herself in a local law enforcement agency that operated in tandem with federal immigration services. I didn't ask her for a favor, I simply provided the puzzle pieces. She pulled up the agency database. 10 minutes later, she called me back, her voice tight with professional disgust. Turso wasn't just a scammer. He wasn't just an illegal laborer. According to his official entry records and background checks, he had a wife and a 5-year-old daughter waiting for him back in his home country. The tears dried instantly, replaced by a cold, crystalline resolve. The hounds were officially off the leash. Vesper orchestrated the social execution with military precision. Using translation software and dummy numbers, she bypassed his privacy settings. She created group chats on WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, and Instagram, systematically adding every single person on his friends list who shared his last name. Aunts, uncles, cousins, childhood friends, and sitting at the dead center of the digital web, his wife. Vesper didn't just drop the screenshots of his sugar mommy demands and his vicious insults. She provided a comprehensive portfolio of his 6 dating profiles. She included a scathing, elegantly translated paragraph detailing his predatory behavior, branding him a predator who exploited women while his family sat in ignorance. As the notifications pinged and his panicked relatives began blocking the dummy accounts, Vesper simply spun up new ones, adding more distant acquaintances to the fray. I managed to locate a phone number explicitly linked to his sister. I sent the dossier directly to her device. The fallout was instantaneous. Within 30 minutes of the bombardment, my phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. It was Turso. The message was a frantic, grammatically butchered attempt at salvage, calling me a psychopath, insisting I should have known he was joking, and declaring he didn't need to sell himself. It was the desperate thrashing of a rat caught in a trap. I left the message on read, savoring the absolute silence that followed, but public humiliation was only the appetizer. The main course required institutional muscle. I spent the rest of the evening compiling a meticulous dossier. I filled out the official online immigration reporting forms, attaching the screenshots of his admission to working, the photographs of him in uniform, the name and address of his illicit employer, his home address, his full name, and his date of birth. Typically, these reports vanish into a bureaucratic black hole, languishing for months before an overworked clerk glances at them. But I had Brisa. I texted her the official case file number. She didn't promise any miracles, but she assured me she would ensure the file landed on the right desk by morning. 2 days later, the trap snapped shut. It happened just after dawn. A pair of plainclothes officers, acting on the expedited intelligence report, knocked on the door of the dilapidated duplex Turso shared with 5 other men. According to Brisa, who gave me the unofficial debrief over black coffee the next day, the scene was pathetic. They found Turso clutching a burner phone. A quick check revealed the number was registered to a local resident, the owner of the construction firm. A sweep of the residence showed that every single one of his roommates possessed phones registered to the exact same local citizen, establishing an undeniable paper trail of systematic illegal employment. Because deportation proceedings are agonizingly slow and financially draining for the government, they didn't drag him to an airport in handcuffs. Instead, they hit him with a reality infinitely more suffocating. They issued him a formal caution for fraudulent solicitation, slapped him with a strict no-contact order regarding me, and placed a permanent, radioactive flag on his immigration file. The officers made it explicitly clear. The second his current tourist visa expired, he was to leave, and the flag guaranteed a multi-year ban on re-entry. He was trapped in a countdown, completely stripped of his ability to earn illegally, knowing that if he even breathed in my direction, the immediate consequence would be a holding cell. His roommates received identical warnings, effectively severing his entire local support network. The final domino fell on the employer. Armed with the burner phone records and the physical evidence from the house raid, investigators descended on the construction firm's headquarters. They uncovered a massive, systemic operation exploiting undocumented labor. While the criminal investigation is still slowly winding its way through the courts, Brisa mentioned the firm is already staring down tens of thousands of dollars in fines, with the owners facing potential jail time. Turso hadn't just blown up his own life, he had incinerated his employer's entire operation. Now Turso sits in a cramped room, unable to work, counting down the days until his visa expires. He has no money to send back home, no wealthy marks to exploit, and a permanently ruined reputation. When he finally boards that flight back to his sun-drenched coastal city, he won't be returning as a triumphant provider. He will be returning to a deeply humiliated, furious wife, a disgusted extended family, and the inescapable ridicule of everyone who received those screenshots. He thought he was playing a game with a gullible, insecure woman. He didn't realize he was playing Russian roulette with a fully loaded chamber. There is a profound lesson hidden in the wreckage of Turso's life. Never underestimate the sheer destructive power of a woman who knows her worth, and never assume that kindness is a synonym for weakness. Predators rely on the silence of their victims, banking on the assumption that shame will keep you quiet. But when you weaponize that shame and turn it back on the architect, the results are nothing short of spectacular. If you ever find yourself sitting across from someone who tries to put a price tag on your dignity, don't just walk away. Burn the entire store down. If you enjoyed this story of absolute scorched earth justice, make sure to hit that subscribe button, leave a like, and share your own revenge stories in the comments below. Ring the notification bell so you never miss another tale of karma served ice cold. Until next time, keep your standards high and your receipts ready.